Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to today's Tuesday, April the 1st, Public Works Committee meeting. We're going to try to respect everyone's time. We'll give it a couple of minutes for other council members to come so we can have an official meeting. If not, we will start as informational. Roll call, Ms. Curran?
Councilmember Thomas.
Present.
Councilmember Charusso. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember King. Councilmember Green. We have one member. We do not have a quorum.
We'll give it a couple minutes, guys, and if we don't have a quorum for an official meeting, we'll start as informational to respect everyone's time. If Deputy Chief Gernon is here, we can get started. We don't have a quorum for a minutes approval, but we can start item number 3, the ground transportation deputization discussion. So, Ms. Curran, as soon as he steps in, we'll get started. Councilmember Harris has another appointment, so we're going to start it as an informational meeting. Chief Gernon isn't here, so we can start with number 4, the discussion of the Lincoln Beach. Mr. Thread, if you could bring your team to the table and start the discussion of timelines. Any speakers on this issue, if you fill out a card, similar to what we did at the meeting, we'll allow you to address these issues. can sit right over there for now if you want. Identify yourself and who's at the table, and you can start your presentation.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Harris. My name is Joseph Thread. I'm Deputy CEO for Infrastructure for the City of New Orleans. With me is my Deputy Resilience Officer, Greg Nichols, and we're here to talk about Lincoln Beach. Really talk about the project, the timelines. I think today we had put forth an amendment for DEI, digital engineering, to move forward for a quick start. And, you know, just for the sake of time, I just want to say it's my priority to move this project into, completion. I mean, we've got about 7 months left on this administration, and I think it's very important that we move this project forward. If we stop at this point and try to go back out with another procurement effort, that put us another 90 to 180 days down the road. And I really want to make sure this project is moving for this administration.
And let me say, today's meeting is a follow-up for the foundation that was set at the meeting with your team and the mayor and the community at Joe Brown. This public meeting, we hope, we expect to give assurances to the timelines, the questions about contracting, participation, no more delays, and some hard dates on when, who, where, and how we're going to get started. So we don't want any more guessing as it relates to this project and the commitments that were made at the last meeting. This is a public opportunity to double down on those commitments, make sure we have the local participation, make sure that we have the timelines that are in concrete, and make sure that we can start with a phased-in approach to open Lincoln Beach and have access to it as quickly as possible. So that's what I'm expecting today.
I understand. I think that since I think we had a productive meeting out on the 24th.
Yeah, it seemed to be.
And I committed to the residents and organization and small business DBEs that I would set up another informational meeting to explain all the different elements and scope of works of the contract and to brief them on how they could get work and prepare themselves to bid on this opportunity. So that meeting is set up, as you know, Councilmember Thomas, for April the 14th. 5 p.m. I believe it's going to be at the same venue as Joe Brown. I'm just waiting for confirmation. I did have a meeting yesterday with all the executives from the city, finance, procurement, small supplier diversity. All of them are committed and prepared to brief the minority business community on the 14th to get that business started.
So has anything changed from the commitments that we made along with yourself and the mayor? Has anything changed from the meeting that we had at Joe Brown?
To my knowledge, nothing has changed. I committed to have that meeting with the small business community, and I also want to have another meeting with the residents to, plot out a path to bring in a mediator on behalf of the residents and the New Orleans East Matters group to start the development of a CEA, a joint CEA with all concerned, so we can establish a CEA and the governing documents with the city and the residents in New Orleans East.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Dawn Abad. This is on 4. Oh, no, yours on 5. I'm sorry. Okay. I have a speaker for Grace Lewis, but it doesn't say which item. Mr. Edward Parker on 4.
Yeah, good morning. Edward Parker, 7802 Henley Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70126, and also a member of New Orleans United Front. I was at the meeting at Joe Brown, and I came away with different opinions on what was going on, especially as it pertains to the contracts. And one of the things that I want you guys to do is explain to me this construction management at risk. There's a strong rumor that I think what you call it, Seymour or whatever, or construction management at risk. Explain to me what that is, and also while you're doing that, how will that particular management structure relate to our DBEs, especially in the area, and especially with this security contract. What's that? Force One Protection, who was given this contract for security at Lincoln Beach when we had our DBEs or local contractors who could have gotten this contract. So please explain those things to me, please.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
You want to run through the list first?
Yeah.
Okay.
The next speaker is Mr. Sage Michael Pellet on item 4.
So my card is mostly for digital engineering on the next item, but I did have a, this is a card for this one. I just need clarity. Mr. Joseph Threat, you say that a mediator will be brought in to establish a cooperative agreement with New Orleans East Matters?
All the organizations.
I'm sorry, I need clarity on it. Because I say that because New Orleans East Matters is one particular organization. And so if you say that publicly, then you're saying you're creating a CA with one entity. So I need clarity on what you're trying to establish. What you're in a mediator, is that a conflict situation, resolution situation, or is this is someone to coordinate that meeting? Because when we say mediator, then there's a predisposition that there's some type of conflict from the onset, and it's not. And so I just need clarity on what you meant by that statement and on that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pellet. Ms. Renata Collins.
Good morning. My biggest concern that I would like to be able to know that if on the day of the 14th of April, when we come out to learn how we can do business with the Lincoln Beach, instead of just sharing the DBE, how do we get ourselves to become prime? What are the things that's going to be in place so that not only do we have to take a crumb of the pie, but if we want larger contracts and have more control, what would that look like as well? Not just DBEs, but if we could have more information so that the everyday people can know how to be a prime and then they sub it out to other DBEs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Alicia Plummer for 4, and you could address 5 when that comes up too. But we're on 4 now.
Good morning. Thanks for allowing me to come up. As we said before, we meaning NOF, the New Orleans United Front. I also represent New Orleans East Business Association, the oldest residential and business group since 1972 in New Orleans East, and also for myself as a resident. We've complained and complained and complained some more. The meeting that was done at Joe Brown was not the meeting that we've asked for. And since then, Mr. Threat came to us this morning. He's going to allow us to have a meeting. But we're still asking for an investigation between Ms. Nobles, the relationship between Ms. Robles and the guy who keeps getting the security contract in New Orleans East. I was accused of taking money under the table because I was supposed to be representing another security company, which is an absolute lie, and I don't appreciate it. We are going forward with what we want, we're asking for, but I was almost about to pass out over there when you talked about a CEA with New Orleans East Matters. That is run by Tangi Wall, who's in conjunction with you, Councilman. And if you're going to do a CEA with Tangi in her group.
That wasn't my recommendation.
He just said it. Mr. Threat just said it.
When I said New Orleans
Stop my time.
No, we'll give you more time.
New Orleans East Matters does not speak for everybody in New Orleans East. Tangi Walls, who's over New Orleans East Matters, has been vocal about her support with the councilman. You have a whole bunch of groups out there, including NOEBA,
Start Ms. Plummer's time again.
that needs to be at the table. You have ENONAC that needs to be at the table. But you choose New Orleans East Matters, and I have a problem with that. So I'd like for you to explain that, and how you came to say that you're going to do a CEA with New Orleans East Matters.
And Mr. Threat, for further clarification, I've never had conversations with you about any particular group. How would you come up with one particular group, given the variety of groups who've worked on this? Why was only one mentioned?
I mentioned that. I misspoke. I was saying I wanted to say the residents of New Orleans East.
And I'm going to say this.
And if I could, Councilmember.
Just before you finish, you know the conspiracy around people using stuff is real. And you know I never mentioned anyone in particular to you and can pass any test to verify that. But to make that mistake gives people ammunition to take it somewhere that it isn't.
I understand.
And this piece has been highly politicized. I first started talking about this almost 8 years ago on a radio show. Then nothing was done, and I wasn't on the council. Then the next year went by and nothing was done, and I wasn't on the council. Then the next year went by and nothing was done, and I wasn't on the council. And then nothing was done, and I wasn't on the council. But other people were. Why didn't they get it done then? But now I'm on the council, and at least we're getting to the point where we can fight over opportunity in getting this done. So when we talk about and use words, we have to be very, very careful, extremely careful, in a highly politicized time and effort. And if there's going to be negotiations, then it has to be with everyone who's been involved. And I'll say this, because I just laid out the time frame and I got receipts to prove the time frame. I wasn't here when other people could have gotten it done. That's a fact. But we need to make sure that if we're going to reestablish trust, because there is no trust, and people will use comments like that to further the dis or mistrust. There has to be local participation. The original founders, whether they like me or not, have earned the right to be at the table. They deserve it. I'm tired of seeing people come here to this city and our money be a pass-through. And I've said that before, not just on this project, but on other projects. But this is the political football now. And what I don't want is for people to mess it up to the point where nothing happens. Now, some folk may be willing to take that risk and use it politically and let another year go by, 2 years with nothing happening. I'm not, whether I'm here or not. So we have to be careful about what we say, what we represent, and I'll call them the founders, have to be included deliberately when you talk about communication, participation, and the facts around how we move forward with receipts. Because that way when folks say something, because I got a bunch of receipts, copies, 3 years, comments. I don't believe in playing that kind of gossip game. I can, though. But it's not that kind of time. This is a very important project to the history of this community, to the people who spent time at that historic location, that landmark, cleaning it and positioning it. And let me say this for me. When you look at several major votes on the city council, Mr. Marty, you've been here. When you talk about black business, I've been the only vote by myself. And that's not to disparage anybody else. They have their reasons. But it's been 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. In some cases, I may have been wrong in just voting for the black contractor by myself. Maybe there was other information why people didn't. So you can't use that piece on me, because I got the votes to prove it. But be careful with the words we use. Make sure that the founders are at the table. And if there's going to be participation, it needs to be weighted as heavily locally and on people from this community as possible. I've said that before on other projects and contracts. I said that when I was the only vote for one of the larger major black contractors. Maybe people weren't paying attention then. It didn't get credit then. And I'll continue to say it because the disparity gap is widening. There are people who have given speeches about helping black folk and black women and men, but their votes haven't reflected that. The data when I wasn't here, when they were here, hasn't reflected that. So now what the community wants to see is some results. And if we stick to those timelines, if we stick to communication and involvement, then we'll develop some trust where the political innuendos and political football won't matter, because they'll at least have the facts around, no, the team is sticking to the guidelines. They're fighting for participation. I really didn't come here for commentary because we got to get beyond all of that. What we have to get to is an agreement with the community that backs up the timelines, an industry day with African-American men and women, black local contractors, where they can look at areas where they can participate, in a start date where we say on this date in 2025, the beach is opening.
Right.
And if we're not talking about that, we're not saying anything.
Right. I mean,
It's a threat.
if I could, Councilmember Thomas, let me be very clear. I'm not here to hold up any project. You can look at my track record. I move projects. So I'm here to move this project. And when I misspoke about New Orleans East Matters, when I put together the CEA with Municipal Auditorium, had 26 organizations. The CEA was an umbrella for 26 organizations. I want to do the same for this project, Lincoln Beach. Whatever organizations we have there concerned, the people who have dedicated their lives and times to take care of that beach will be all-inclusive. We're going to scope out their responsibilities and take care of them. And we're going to move this project forward. So I just wanted to make that clear. And I apologize if I misspoke.
And look, this is a conversation that has to be had, because we could continue dealing with innuendo instead of actual work and producing a product. And I don't think people understand that. The more we deal with politicization and innuendo, it takes you back to have conversations around all this soft stuff instead of hard stuff. But I will say this to you unequivocally, that you will answer all those questions when the timeline and the commitments set out happen, and when you say, on this date, we're going to have a phased-in and soft opening of Lincoln Beach. Everybody show up. When that happens, it eliminates all of the other stuff, especially for that phase and that part of it. And the belief that people will have that at least we know we have a start date. Because so once you do that, that's a wrap. Then it's just to overall development. What are the next phases? But the ability to access the beach is the number one thing that I think many folk in the community and most people are worried about right now. So when you come here and you say, and the mayor forms our ribbon cutting, and you say, on this date, we're going to put on our trunks or walk in the sand That's when it's going to be for real, for real. Okay? Those are the issues, please.
We have other cards. Councilmember Thomas, did you want to go through the other cards? Do you have some?
No, the other cards are for, we actually have other items on the agenda here.
Okay.
And we're dealing with other issues. So the Public Works wasn't just about this, but this is the public opportunity for you to follow up on the commitments that were made and the promises that were made, so we can continue doubling down on these timelines so that at some point they become real.
Yeah, well, I talked about the 14th for the minority and DBEs, and that's set in sand. I'm just waiting for confirmation today. We're going to make that happen. The CEA mediation, when I talked about a mediator, that is to coordinate with the residents and organizations to move the meetings forward and to help coordinate the development of the CEA.
Okay.
That's what that is for. The Force One security, that was brought up to my attention earlier, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I went to procurement and investigated myself how that Force One contract was awarded. And it was the first bidders, it was 2 bidders on the first contract, 3 bidders on the second contract. 2 of the bidders, one of the builders was unresponsive on the first one, and the second, Force One had the lowest price. So by state bid law, we had to award the contract to Force One.
So you're saying that the state law required that you give, and this is an out-of-town firm?
Force One out of town?
Force One, I believe it maybe is locally based, but
Are they headquartered here?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, are they minority, DBE, or any component of it?
I
That's
don't
a
know
yes
if
or no.
They're not minority, but I believe
Okay.
they may be considered because I think the owner is a veteran, so they were considered.
The owner's a
disadvantaged.
veteran,
Correct.
but they're
Yeah, but
headquartered here.
I'll get you answers.
So state laws, based on bid law, said that you had to.
Yeah.
Is there a way we can give, do we give points for local
Is it?
off of DBE?
Under a low bid, we're required to take the lowest
He's
bidder.
required to take the low bid.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I can provide that documentation from
Yes.
purchasing.
Yeah, no, I think we should provide, especially share it with the Lincoln Beach Committee.
Yeah,
So that
Ms.
if it
Plummer
was-
brought
if
it
was-
up to me.
If it was a low bid and if it was required by the law, then that documentation's, because you don't want anybody to go to jail.
No, I've got the documentation.
Okay, well, let's provide that information to the committee. And it would show scoring and pricing and?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now, the next thing, if you're following your list, what role will the mediator play? I think Mr. Pellet wanted to know, what role are they playing in negotiating what?
Well, I can
What
tell you
outcomes are they
that,
looking for? What are you modeling?
And it's on just a date, because, we
Yeah.
met 3 years ago, and
Yeah.
had the same conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a date.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Today is a day to say, on this date, we're going to have the industry day. On this date, we're going to meet with the mediator. This will be the agenda. On this date, I know you said October is when we're looking at breaking ground or potentially having access.
Yeah.
But we want that in concrete at some point real soon.
okay. And I've got Ms. Hassan here, my chief of staff, who, we work closely with the Maroon Group in Municipal Auditorium. I just wanted her to give the group
The role of the mediator.
the role of the mediator.
So I'll use the Municipal Auditorium project just as a model for how Maroon helped, right? So Maroon came aboard and they were, completely independent from the city and from SOS, was the community group at the time.
Maroon is good at what they do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so, with their experience and knowledge, they were able to convey to SOS how government, what are the limitations of government, what are our procurement rules, really explain that process.
I want to stop you right there. We talk about the limitations of government, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like the judicial branch, the executive branch, and the legislative branch.
Mm-hmm.
Like Councilmember Harris and I don't have the power to give out administrative contracts, or administrative contract.
Mm-hmm.
We can't tell y'all what the bid laws to follow.
That's correct.
We can't tell y'all Councilman, who to contract with. And once we do appropriation, Councilman, say that again? That's it. So no matter how much folk want to blame us, once we give it to you guys, it's extremely important that y'all follow the laws or the rules of the charter, correct?
That's correct.
That's a recording. I'm going to use that recording to play that piece back for the next several months. Go ahead, finish, please.
So they really helped to bridge the gap because I think with that particular project, there was a lack of trust between the community and city government. And so they really helped to bridge that gap between community and the government. And so they helped us understand what the true concerns were from SOS, and they helped SOS understand where the city was coming from and what some of the limitations were from city government, from the city's perspective. And so I think in that communication and bridging the gap, we got to a place where we were able to really move forward with coming up with a CEA that was mutually beneficial and understand how SOS can really help push this project forward. And I think we're in a great place now. I think if you speak to anyone with SOS, they appreciated the work that we did. It was an 18-month process. It was not easy. But bringing Maroon into the fold really helped to get us.
No, they went from fighting the mayor to now vouching for the process.
Absolutely. It was a
And they've done that
process.
publicly.
And I can, if I can add to that, when Lenitra says SOS for Save Our Soul, this was a nonprofit that was created with those 26 different organizations that cared about municipal auditorium, just like we're talking about the beach, Lincoln Beach.
Okay. So when do we expect to have that meeting with the groups to talk about how they help shepherd this to get it to the deadlines and the promises and the commitments we want? How soon?
So I think one of the things that was outstanding was a scope of work from Maroon, and I believe that's been submitted as soon as like last night. I think they submitted a scope of work so that we can get that started. Once that scope of work is approved, I think we'll be in a good place to get that meeting on the books. But we don't want to delay it. We want to move as quickly as possible, but we do need to have a contract mechanism in place in order to do so.
All right. You know, as quickly as possible is yesterday.
I understand that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Mr. Threat, thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to, I want to bring digital engineering up if I could, just to give a brief of their scope of work.
Okay.
And their timelines that are involved around that.
Okay. Yes. And this is also item number 5, so they may want to take an opportunity to explain why the amendments, why the increases. Announce yourself, please.
Yes, good morning. Andrew Woodruff with Digital Engineering. Joe, would you like me to start at the beginning of the scope of work? Okay. So Digital Engineering began work on this project in 2020. At that time, we performed a site assessment of the Lincoln Beach.
I want to interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
Roll call. We now have a quorum, so we can make this an official meeting. We can adopt the minutes and then continue to record the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, we'll just recognize that council members Harris
And King are both here.
And we 3 members, and we have a quorum.
Move adoption of the minutes for the March 17th meeting. Moved by me. Second by Councilmember King. All in favor? Ayes have it. So ordered. I apologize. Continue your presentation.
Absolutely. So in 2020, we began work on the site assessment of Lincoln Beach. The purpose of that site assessment was to determine if the site is actually developable, right, to ensure that there were no environmental hazards or anything that would prevent development of the site, as well as provide some opinions on how to make that site developable. Things like re-establishing utility services to the site, such as potable water, wastewater, and drainage for safe access. Also things like providing safe pedestrian access to the site across Hain Boulevard. When the flood wall was reconstructed following Hurricane Katrina, many of those services were cut off and not able to be reestablished in place. So that assessment identified different options for reestablishing those services. We identified minimum improvements that would need to be done, maximum improvements that could be done if the funding was in place, and also some things in between that the city could essentially pick and choose from depending on the level of development that would take place on the site. At the completion of that site assessment, the city had approximately $5 million to go ahead and make those improvements and reestablish those services to the site. So from that point forward, we began design on those utility improvements, pedestrian improvements, and parking lot to at least get the minimum level of service to the site in order for the site to be able to be occupied. Over the course of that design, the city was successful in securing additional monies for more significant and extensive improvements to the site. At that time, our contract was then modified to design those more extensive improvements to the site that included things like a pedestrian bridge to safely get pedestrians from the parking lot over the flood wall and remove all interactions from Hayne Boulevard from a public safety standpoint in order to provide the most safe access for people, families, children accessing the site. We are in progress of those design improvements. We are currently at the 30% design stage of those improvements. We are currently not progressed past the 30% design phase as the project has moved towards a CMAR method for construction. The Louisiana statutes for CMAR dictate that the design cannot proceed past 30% until you have a CMAR contractor on board. Once we have that CMAR contractor on board, we will then work hand in hand with that CMAR contractor to progress the design all the way to 100%, and they will then phase in construction
And
along that process.
explain to the public or layman with that CMAR contractor, why is that specialty item and why is that needed?
Sure. So CMAR is Construction Management at Risk. It is a relatively new form of infrastructure contracting where you bring in a contractor early during the design process for them to provide input on the design for highly complex projects. This project is not a standard road project or utility project. It is a project that requires a lot of mobilization coordination, a lot of specialty contractors, a lot of specialty access to the site. So bringing the contractor in early allows them to provide input into the engineering designs so that we can minimize the change orders and delays on the back end of that process. So they will give us inputs on the design at every milestone submittal that will be incorporated into all of the engineering drawings, and then they can begin construction on elements as they are ready.
That's your presentation from Mr. Threat? Okay. Mr.
Yes, and Greg, can you give the timeline that we've got and what we've been going through as far as the scope and the work we're doing as far as a quick open?
Sure. Yeah. So the construction RFP that we've been discussing for CMAR, it's going to be released this month. I think one of the things that we wasn't anticipated is we have a lot of federal funds on this project. We have funds from HUD, from Troy Carter for the pedestrian bridge. We have funds from the U.S. Treasury through the Restore Act, which is the BP oil spill money. We have funds from the EPA through the Pontchartrain Restoration Program, and we also have state capital outlay funds. So those four different sources, they all needed to sign off and approve the procurement, and we have at this point received approval from all those entities. And so at this point, it's just paperwork that we need to complete that is being finalized, and we expect that the procurement will go out in the next couple weeks. And then in terms of contracting, that typically takes there's a 30-day period of advertising the RFP. The evaluation committee will meet, and then contracting usually takes about 3 months. And so we do anticipate that the contractor will be aboard late summer, early fall, and we're anticipating a groundbreaking in October. I will say that all of this, as Andrew mentioned, getting the contractor aboard is going to better inform a more firm timeline once they're aboard, but that's what we're projecting right now.
Yeah, and I think originally, just working with Councilmember Moreno and the council, we originally started off with bond funding, which really would have pushed our project scheduled for early open this summer. But when the federal funds came in from Councilmember Carter's office and the EPA and other places, it required us to go back and get approvals from the federal government before we could move forward. And those were the delays.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing. As you all know, the federal government's obviously been going through a lot of upheaval. We've had 3 different project officers from HUD in the last few months, so there's been a lot of turnover on their end too that I think has delayed some of their responses to our requests.
Well, I just think we have to be conscious here, and thank you for laying out the money and where it came from for this project. But had it not been for the founders or the people who laid their stake to get us to this point, we wouldn't have any of that money. The money wouldn't be there for the engineering firms, for CMAR, for contractors, for security. So I think we have to be mindful that too often in this city, the citizens will make an effort or have a request, right, or be interested in something, but the local community citizens don't get a chance to participate. Now we have folk who have expertise in sustainability, dealing with our natural environment, natural habitat, and I think we have to be really mindful that if we're going to spend almost $30 million, that we wouldn't have that money had it not been for the founders who said this is an important site. We're going to pick up some trash. We're going to clean it up. We're going to get folk involved. And, you know, my office was out there when we coordinated with the levee board to move almost 2,000 bags. And that was a couple of years ago now. So just be mindful while we're funding this project, we wouldn't have any of that money if it wasn't for the founders of, I like to call it Lincoln Beach 2. It's not the one my mother went to, but the one her great-grandchildren will be able to go to.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Councilmember Thomas. And with that, the minority, we call it a boot camp industry day that we're going to have on the 14th. Like one of the speakers said, is not only educate some of our small businesses, DBEs, minority companies, on how to grow up, how to bid on an opportunity, number one. Number two, how to grow into what it takes to grow into the prime location to bid on the whole contract. But number three, with the 35% mandate, what it's going to take and what those skill sets are that we're going to require in this contract. And if I got time, I'll just go through a few of them.
Absolutely.
Some of the elements or the trades that are going to be involved in this contract is concrete and asphalt, wet utilities, electrical, landscaping, irrigation, earthwork, demo, glazing, structural steel, glass curtain wall, rough carpentry, finished carpentry, painting, masonry, dredging, metal fabrication, directional drilling, and debris and salvage. So the intent of the meeting on the 14th is to explain those different areas of trade work, scopes of work, what it's going to take as far as line of credits and bonding to be a prime, and if not a prime, educate the community on what they can do to team and come in as a team with a prime to support those areas that they lack in capability to bid on this opportunity.
Any questions for council members? Mr. Philly, I had pulled up your card on 5 earlier, but you also have one on 4. Mike, I had pulled up your card on 5, and I know you had one on 4 too, so I don't know if you wanted to speak on this. I apologize for that. You had 2 cards.
Give me a second to gather myself.
I'll take your time.
Out there a second. Let me just try to make this simple as possible. Required work is separate away from master plan work. The master plan deals with the overall programming of it. We're talking about digital engineering, we're doing required work. Once again, this is inside baseball plan. We're Monday morning quarterbacking on the situation. Let's say this is what we know. We know we spent $1.4 million on a contract with digital engineering. And before we extend a contract, deliver on what you've done before you get more. We're not paying for words, we're paying for reports, written reports. You are contracted through the Fifth Amendment, and I'm not sure if by legal law that you can have 6 amendments to a contract. I was told we could clarify if you can have more than 5 amendments to a city contract without going for open bid. And so in my world, what we do is you got a contract with the city of New Orleans. It's due April 2nd, 2025. It's due tomorrow. And this is what's signed off. And we can't give people money without filling out the scope of work. It's like a haircut. I pay you for it, and now I want to turn in the mirror and see what we got for our money. This is basics. And they have a list of several different things, civil infrastructure improvements, a whole list of things where they have to come up with construction design. They're supposed to meet with a bridge manufacturer, mechanical, electrical, hanging boulevard, crossing scopes of work. These are things contracted, digital and cultural resources and permitting, geotechnical materials, and their reimbursable expenses. Not only this contract was given out with a deadline of tomorrow, they received more compensation from it. From like civil infrastructure improvement design, what they're required to do, they went from getting $229,000 to $279,000 to getting $607,820.50. And what I'm saying is, if we have a contract that ends tomorrow, my standard of accountability is, if it's due tomorrow, show me what you've done. You have these things to do on permitting. We need receipts on these permits that you have stated: coastal use permit, levee safety permit, section 4A permit, utility project permit, LDH permit, coastal use permit, levee safety permit, Norfolk Southern Railroad permit. You have these tax amendments currently to develop the master plan. You have terminal parking lot on Haynes Boulevard, pedestrian crossing on Haynes Boulevard, restoration of existing concrete site paving, tying municipal water system, tying municipal sewer system, pool deck, pool canopy demolition, lakefront bulkhead demolition, concrete pier pads demolition, structural retrofit of existing tunnel, structural rehabilitation of perimeter brick wall, structural rehabilitation of existing concrete pavilions for placement on historical register, permitting. Councilman Thomas, this is a contract that you all signed, sealed, and delivered to be delivered tomorrow. What are we doing with contracts if we're not upholding contractors with deadlines? I feel as though it's not fair for us not to get written reports on where are your checklists, where's your cover sheet on the RFP process, who wrote the RFP. The city agency should write the RFP. My concern is, do we have qualified people managing this project? ORS is not an agency for this. Capital Projects is built for building recreational projects. Our project managing does not have the experience and skill set with project engineering experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to deal with 4 and 5 at the same time, if you guys don't mind.
I had more, but 2 minutes is a hard box for me to be placed in. It's very difficult. We had a meeting scheduled for the other time. I had to fight with an agenda that was giving community 1 minute to speak. This is not fair to our community who works so hard, and I have work to go to. Thank you.
Yeah, and at the last meeting, I think the mayor and everyone waived the 1 minute, so no one was, which is unfair. No one should be forced to speak, especially at an important project within a minute.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas. Just one more thing. If these meetings could have more time ahead. Okay. This was announced Monday morning. We're here Tuesday. We had to rearrange everywhere. We barely was able to mobilize community to show up. This is not fair to community to have 24 hours to talk about extension of $700,000 that we already get 1.4 without proof of the work.
When was this meeting announced? Yesterday? Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Pellet. Ms. Alicia Plummer on item 5, followed by Ms. Wallace.
Thank you. I just wish you guys would just go back to the archives of this last meeting and what we had said from no stands. We are not agreeing to go further with this contract. And I have to say, Councilman, I was sitting back there with you. I don't want to be disrespectful, have the audacity to chastise us because we have different opinions and we have different receipts as well about stuff that goes on here. And we don't need a mediator. We don't need another group that's politically connected to come to New Orleans East and tell us what we want and tell us what we should have. From my understanding, all the groups in New Orleans East are on one accord except one. You know which one that is? New Orleans East Matters, Mr. Threat. That's why we had an issue when you said you were going to do a CEA with New Orleans East Matters. So you need to come to us. We don't need nobody else getting any monies off this project. And to be honest with you, monies was placed on this project when Senator Duplessis was here in office. She had $5 million on this new Lincoln Beach. What she did with it, when she came to the city and Senator Willard Lewis became the senator, she sent the money back to the state. So the politics that goes on here, people are sick and tired. And New Orleans East is the demographic with the most educated residents. We're no fools. We know what we're doing, and we know the politics when we see it. We're not going to stomach it.
The next is Ms. Tricia Wallace, and while Ms. Wallace is coming, the one thing I never do is chastise people. I think in a very deliberate voice, I gave the timelines, and we talked about the facts around this. It's very easy to banter and throw words around in a highly politicized environment. But if someone took it the wrong way, I apologize, because I'm one of the most respectful people that God put on this earth. So I would never, especially, try to chastise the community. The community raised me. And I wouldn't be who I am without the community. But I understand the intentions, and I understand what people are trying to do. So I'm really not the one to play word games with, because my reputation means as much as anybody's reputation. And I'm one of the most respectful people God put on this earth, and the people who know me know that. Ms. Wallace.
Thank you. Tricia Wallace, 3819 Fairmont Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana 70122. I am the president of the Lincoln Beach Community Advisory Committee, as well as New Orleans for Lincoln Beach. I just want to say good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. One thing I would like to quickly say about that meeting, it did start here. There was a lot of things that went on with that was changed, as well as the agenda and how it would be processed. I will say no one was given a minute. People were allowed to talk freely, which means that people were also cut off freely. I came here to ask this. DEI, from your site assessment, is the site developable in 2025? Do you have the permits from all the entities that you need, including utilities, to begin construction? Are you still building planning for a pedestrian bridge? Because I see I heard it mentioned today here that's in the contract, but I heard talks that the bridge was not being developed. And let's see. That's it. Y'all have pretty much answered everything else. Just want to know if the beach can open this year, contractually, within compliance, legally, how the community wants it as a beach.
Great question. Bottom line question. Thank you, Ms. Wallace.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Onebe. Yeah, you're going to answer that question after we hear all the speakers on this? And then followed by Mr. Morgan.
You're going to answer that.
Dawn Hebert, 6846 Lake Willow Drive, and also I'm the president of the East New Orleans Neighborhood Advisory Commission. And thank you for readdressing all of the associations, or not agencies, but groups in New Orleans East, because we are all working together, the majority of us. Also, we would like to have a commission, so maybe if that could be on the table to do that. But I do want to say that I believe DEI has been under contract since 2020, and SAGE actually went through the 12 quick start tasks that they were supposedly working on. I, as just an individual, don't understand why it's taking so long to open this beach. For 5 years, and we were told October 2025 it would open. We just want, the community wants a basic beach for community members. I really would like to know and get an answer to why has it not been worked on? Why is it not opening in 2025? And also, Ms. Robles mentioned that it was pushed back to 2027. So, I mean, what's going on with that? I don't understand. Also, it was mentioned that there are 4 sources of funding. Why has it not been worked on over the years? You know, have the applications been just forgotten about or delayed? So why don't we have the money? Why isn't it here right now? And as time goes on, I actually don't understand why DEI is asking for additional funding when they haven't completed the task from the first group of monies, I'm assuming, which I shouldn't, that they have been paid. So what is the delay? And what is to say that they will not come up with another change order down the line for more money? So these are questions that we really need answered. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're going to answer all these questions after the speakers, right? Mr. Morgan, followed by Ms. Collins.
Good morning to the council and all the people in the house. The Lincoln Beach issue is very important to Afro-America. When I think about the past, how Pontchartrain Beach was given the state of the art, and when I say the state of the art, I mean the transportation and everything. And Lincoln Beach was given the scraps. Transportation, there was only one bus. And if you missed that bus, you stood out there. And I remember for a time that the city itself had abandoned Lincoln Beach. When I say abandoned it, they didn't give a damn if it would have turned into a trash, as they have been trashing it with trash from tires and everything else. But it took one person to come in and open Pandora's box and try to make it reality, to make it what it should be, a beach for the people. And that was Oliver Thomas, Councilman Oliver Thomas. And when I seen him pick up that trash, and I said, now here's a person above his principle and above his stature, picking up trash. He is 100% in heart for the people to make sure that they are given what they do. You gave it to Lincoln, you gave it to Pontchartrain Beach, give it to my people, because remember, we deserve it. It's our time. And you give them everything what it takes to make that beach feasible, operation, and benefit the people of New Orleans, because we long overdue for it.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Mr. George Marti.
George Mardi, Neighborhood Unity and Merge. I still have concerns about the DEI's situation. You know, there's a lot happening on the level of state and federal government about ending DEI. So going forward, how is this going to play out, and what will y'all do if something comes down where they end these kind of programs, and how we will address that?
Yeah, I think the DEI is in terms of digital engineering, not the federal DEI program.
That's under the state you're talking about?
Yeah, you mentioned, you're talking about ending DEI, right? And
right.
Yeah, I think DEI now means digital engineering, the firm. So we're not talking about DEI program.
You're not talking about.
Yeah. So that's
but
that's
just using the acronym.
About, correct.
You know.
Correct.
And that's the question that I have.
Right.
Could that be answered and addressed?
I don't know in terms of this contract, but that needs to be addressed moving forward because it could impact our entire city, and especially under the new administration that we have in Washington. So that's a concern, but that's not for this project.
Okay, all right.
And while you're here, I want to thank you because one of the times we were out there cleaning up and picking up trash, you were out there with us, Mr. Magdi. So
Oh, yeah.
we appreciate you, man.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Collins, yeah.
Good morning, Renata Collins at
Good morning,
3701
Ms.
Conti Street. And first, I want to say thank you as well for the work that you have been doing on Lincoln Beach, as well as the founders who's been doing a lot that's working on this Lincoln Beach. And because one of my biggest things is I hear the community when they say, hey, listen, you're asking for funding for more time, but you're not creating a state-of-the-art type of infrastructure. And if you was to create something that was more elaborate, then I think that maybe we can see why more time is. But with the resources that has been presented, and the request for more time isn't to bring something as elaborate as the guy said with how Pontchartrain Beach used to be. So why is it that if you created a schedule that was supposed to be adhered to by now, and it wasn't, what are the implications or what was the setbacks that took place that's asking for the more time? Does that make sense? Like, so that, and then what are the necessary things that is put in order so that we don't have to succumb to this type of incident again? So if there's a different model that is being structured and better things are being implemented, or is that the reason? Why is it that we need more time? Because we do want to be able to experience the best part of New Orleans, and we also want to make sure that not only do we have this open, but how can the community create this is a state-of-the-art event, plus have resources to tourist dollars. But I think even more than the profit that we want to make, we want to be able to experience the beach.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Mr. Thread, those questions that were raised, and also those questions about the checklist, I think they're legitimate questions. If you're contracting, you know, when you hit a home run, you got to touch first base first. If you miss a base, not a home run. If you drop the ball before you cross the goal line, not a touchdown.
Right.
So if we could address those issues and then talk about phased in where we are and the reason for the extension. And the other issue is, if we don't grant the extension, does it threaten the timeline, or how much does it threaten the project? Mr. Thread.
Okay, and with that, I think Councilmember Thomas, I'll start off with digital engineering to give their scope of work and what the completion project items were.
Sure. So I guess I'm going to go, I think, straight down the list of the items that we heard. So I have Melissa's questions. Is the site developable? Yes, the site is developable. We have gone through the proper protocols of doing an environmental assessment for contamination. We have gone through the wetland delineations with the Corps of Engineers to determine where wetlands are located on the site to make sure that we're not interfering with any federally regulated wetlands. Are permits in place? Some permits are in place. We have secured permits to do the geotechnical investigations needed to actually construct the bridge foundations. Other permitting agencies have been engaged. The city just signed their cooperative endeavor agreement with Norfolk Southern Railroad in order to get the project permitted by the railroad. They do require a very extensive, very intense permitting process where they will review our construction documents at every milestone along the way. All other permitting agencies, including the Flood Protection Authority, the Corps of Engineers, have been engaged to get their input on the project, and all of their input is being incorporated into the design. They will issue final permits at the completion of design. Will there be a pedestrian bridge? I don't want to speak wholly for the master plan, but currently in the master plan, there is a bridge, and the bridge is being actively designed. So yes, there will be a pedestrian bridge. Dawn, to address your question, why is DEI asking for additional funding? The funding on the current proposal is to see the project all the way through construction. Digital engineering was previously under contract through design. The request currently is for the construction administration services for the contract in order to work with the contractor all the way through construction, review materials, inspect the work as it is ongoing. And there was a question on why is more time needed? Where have been the schedule delays? I don't want to speak totally for the master plan. Greg and Joe, I may defer to you a bit on that. However, I will say that we do appreciate the concern that has been raised. Our design schedule has now aligned essentially with the master plan schedule. Our design contract is to provide the utilities, the pedestrian access, and the other essentially civil infrastructure needed in order to develop the elements of the master plan. So while our design is informing the master plan is also simultaneously informing our design, giving us the level of development that will take place on the site, such as fire flows that are going to be needed for any buildings, such as wastewater demands from any structures that are built on the flood side. From those inputs, we then design the infrastructure in order to meet those demands. So the civil engineering design schedule has essentially aligned with the master plan schedule, and everything will be now progressed and constructed at once.
And if I could, Councilman, thank you. If I could, Councilmember Thomas, I'd like Greg.
Mr. Thread, we had Ms. Lewis, you wanted to speak on 4, but you put 3.
Oh, I had one for 3 and one for 4. I had 2 parts.
Yeah, but you had 3 on both of them. But if you want to speak on this, come on. Come on.
Sorry, this wasn't what I came here for today, but I'm not as informed as all these people. But I do just have, I guess, some basic questions. I went to one of the community meetings where you gave back feedback, and that was a really fun, interesting event to go to and to see everyone's opinions and talk about what should happen with Lincoln Beach and moving forward with this project. I guess my question is, how much funding do you have for this project already funded, and what percentage of that funding are you using for planning? Because it seems like this is all a lot of planning, and at the end of it, there's not going to be nothing left over to do anything. And is there a percentage of actionable money, like 70% of the money that you have should be going to construction, actual moving, machinery and products that are going into Lincoln Beach? Because there's a lot of talking that's been going on, or a lot of debate on what exactly should happen, and it seems like you're getting close to the 1.4 plus 600, $2 million mark on planning. $7 million on planning. Oh my gosh. Okay, $7 million on planning, and nobody's swimming at the beach, and that seems wildly an abuse of money, right? I'm not, like I said, I'm not very well informed on all of this. I just, it seems like something should have been done. There should at least be a small swimming area with a little bobber blockade at the minimum at this point. So where and when is this going to move forward outside of the planning, and how has that much money been wasted?
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Thread, you can go through your comments now.
Oh, yes, and what I wanted to do... And
address the issue. Go ahead.
What I wanted to do is let Greg talk about the delays first, and then talk about what happens if the extension doesn't happen.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, I think one of the primary delays was getting approvals. I know Dawn mentioned, why weren't we working on this? And I think we have been working on it. The federal government has not been rapid to our responses, but we have gotten that in place. I think one of the other reasons around delays is, as Andrew mentioned, there's a lot of back and forth between the master plan design, what residents want, and what our firm Sasaki is doing to represent the residents' desire, and some of the things that digital is working on, that need to be informed by what that master plan is. The plan needs to be designed per, the civil infrastructure improvements need to be designed per what the master plan is. So, now that those timelines are aligned, that we don't anticipate things should be delayed for that same reason moving forward. And in terms of, the delay, whether this contract delay would impact things, it absolutely would. Digital scope to take this through construction is primarily the main parts of the beach that need to get the beach open. Things like the tunnel improvements so that folks can access it, structural repairs to make the waterfront pieces safe for folks, the Phase 1 parking lot, utilities. These are all the core parts of infrastructure improvements that need to be made to open the beach. So we do need this contract amendment to get the beach open as residents have desired.
Well, we don't have a committee, so we can't make an official recommendation anyway, so this matter is going to have to go before the full council. Mr. Threat, anything else?
All I have to say is that, I've been here since 2018, working construction and design.
Gotcha.
Build a lot of stuff in the city. We've got to have a design to make sure that beach is safe. We've got to get folks across Hain Boulevard. We've got to make sure there's no structures in the water to where people get hurt. And before we start construction, we've got to do all the environmental studies, pass all those gates from the federal government to spend the federal money to get the beach open. We could haphazardly open the beach and let people go out there today. But the problem is, don't you want a state-of-the-art beach? I want to build something that people are going to talk about. And I want to put a nice bridge there and put the facilities there with all the enhancements to make it safe. And that's all I have to say.
Online comments, Ms. Carr?
First comment is from, we have Deisha Greeley and Eric Greeley both stating, open the beach with tunnel repairs for entrance, parking, restrooms, and safety this year. Gerald Lanassa comments, I support the expansion of digital engineering services. Licensed professional engineering services play a vital role in investments like the Lincoln Beach project. A full-service engineering firm provides essential independent oversight, protecting taxpayers, residents, and visitors. I do urge the council to briefly pause the meeting to compile a clear, concise list of outstanding items that are delaying the publication of the RFP this week. What specific steps must be completed and signed off on to get the RFP finalized and released? Is the recent commitment to get the RFP out during April on target and supported by all the parties required? Can digital engineering confirm DE has completed all the RFP work on their end? Mr. Lanassa also comments, can someone on the council facilitate agreement with both digital engineering and DPW to determine exactly what remains incomplete before the Lincoln Beach project RFP can be published? What are the largest RFP challenges that still need to be closed? Which City Hall departments have yet to approve the bid document for release? What is the typical turnaround time and days for each required department to approve an RFP, RFQ for a project like Lincoln Beach? Are there any factors that could jeopardize the goal of publishing the Lincoln Beach project RFP in April? What is preventing the RFP from being released this week? Please be specific. The less than concise communications in the past are damaging the project and the public trust. Mallory Turner says, we as taxpayers, especially residents of District E, need a breakdown line item by line item on how the $1.2 million was spent before a decision is made on whether or not to extend the contract and grant additional funds. Janet Tobias says, what's the current Lincoln Beach budget and why can it be used to fund and support the services? Daryl Tobias says, use current, funds to complete tunnel, parking lot, restrooms, and security and open the beach. And Ryan and Candace Taylor say, use the current funds to complete services of tunnel, parking lot, security, and safety to open the beach. Also, now that Lincoln Beach Boulevard is in the hands of DPW, what is the plan for infrastructure and revitalization of the entirety of Lincoln Beach Boulevard? That's it for comments.
Thank you. I think we have some tasks on hand. And what I'd like to recommend is that, especially in communication with the committee, the founders and folk working on the beach, back out from October, what has to happen to meet that October opening deadline. All the things that have to happen. And if certain things don't happen, what will delay the opening? As well as the checklist for digital. You guys could produce a document that shows for what you've been paid, what you've done, and then something that specifically outlines the need for the next phase of the contract and why it's important for that to be from the end of the initial contract to opening of the beach. The other thing I think we heard was a concrete date for the industry day and the meeting with Maroon and the community about what that looks like and what we hope to achieve and how do we hopefully get the same effort or the same results that they did from Save Our Souls, where you had competing interests with very little trust, to then the members of Save Our Souls standing with the mayor and with you guys, supporting the effort. I think it'd be helpful for the community to know what you want to accomplish with that agreement.
And I owe you the selection committee criteria for Force One.
That's absolutely correct, period. And intensive communication, all right, because there are a lot of things that the administration is responsible for that even if that Jesus said the council could do it, based on the charter, we can't.
Right.
So let's clear that stuff up and make sure that we're in coordination and communication with the community. All right, as well as clear up who needs to be involved, because I know with the agreement with the municipal auditorium, there wasn't any one group that was part of the agreement. It was several groups.
Yeah, 26.
Right. So remember, Mr. Thread, language matters. People will use language against you.
I got you.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
To Mr. Chair and to the members of the public and to our presenters, I just wanted to express my regret. There was an activity today involving support for victims of crime, and it took place at the same time here at City Hall. So that's why I'm late. But I just wanted to make it clear that I appreciate your presentation. I'll certainly look at the meeting, and I'll hear the comments of the public. This is such an important project. It doesn't have to be in my district. The bottom line is that it's something that's very important for the city. So I look forward to lending whatever support that I can to you, Councilman Thomas, and to the members of the administration and the public to see this important Lincoln Beach redevelopment take place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Ms. Curran.
I'm not sure where we are. Are we on the
Well, first of all, there is no next item. We lost our quorum, so anything that has to be moved forward will be moved forward to the entire council. For the other issue, Chief Kirkpatrick expressed her apologies in terms of mix-up in communication. Even though we have the thread about communication, we will schedule a special item to deal with that issue with her. She's out of town at a funeral, and we'll deal with item number 3 at either a special meeting or a conference meeting where we can get on the same page because it's important. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you.
Well, there's no need for adjournment because we don't have a quorum, guys. Thank y'all for coming out. Let's make sure we get that checklist done.
And Councilmember Thomas, I'll send you a talking paper about the other item that was on for CDM Smith.
Thank you.